Hello guys, welcome back. Now today we're going to be talking about the Pittsburgh Penguins and if their dynasty is over. Now after getting swept by the New York Islanders and having a very disappointing playoff run, is the Pittsburgh Penguins window closing and has Pittsburgh dynasty ended officially? Watch till the end to find out. Now this was not an ideal playoff run for the Pittsburgh Penguins. They ended up getting swept in 4 games by the New York Islanders, and that Islanders team showed no mercy throughout the whole series to a Pittsburgh Penguins team that needed all the help they could get. Now for the New York Islanders, it was a surgical sweep of the Pittsburgh Penguins. The offense was complete and very clutch at times. The defense shut down a very solid Pittsburgh Penguins squad offensively. The goaltending, Robin Leonard, was fantastic throughout that whole series. And of course, Barry Trotz gets his revenge versus the Pittsburgh Penguins 2 straight years in a row. Now, there were some weird things for the Pittsburgh Penguins in that series. 1, they don't usually get swept in the playoffs. That is a pretty weird occurrence for them. And 2, the Pittsburgh Penguins just did not look like the Pittsburgh Penguins that we've seen in the last few years. When it comes to the Penguins, the high-flying offense that we saw this season was just almost non-existent. There was some games that the offense was there, but it wasn't entirely complete. The defense was absolutely atrocious at times, especially defensively, where the Islanders were able to punish it at times. And Matt Murray, the guy who had an amazing second half of this season, was really nowhere to be found in the first round, and he had a couple of really bad games as well. But the main worry for me right now is how Sidney Crosby played. He had a very weird series. The Pittsburgh Penguins were weird, but Crosby was especially weird. So of course, Sidney Crosby and the Pittsburgh Penguins played 4 games. You want to guess how many points Sidney Crosby had in that series? Yeah, 1 assist, not even a goal in a series, which even though it was a 4-game series, that is especially unlike Sidney Crosby. And of course, he brings a lot of defense, he brings a lot of face-off ability. I know that, we all know that with Sidney Crosby. But the offense was what really worried me. And the Islanders, again, were the best defensive team in the NHL this season, so it kind of does make sense that they were able to shut down the Pittsburgh Penguins if any team could. The Islanders have certainly showed that ability. But when it comes to Sidney Crosby only getting 1 assist in a playoff series, that is especially unlike him, and when we've seen from the playoffs in the past, that usually does not happen. And we've seen in the past, sometimes Pittsburgh Penguins not looking the best as a team, but sometimes they can rely on Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin to sometimes carry them, especially offensively. But that didn't really happen either. Malkin did not have the greatest series. Crosby, especially offensively, was not all that great. And that is a big worry for a team that kind of has to depend on those two in the next few years as the depth starts to dwindle a little bit. Since they keep making the playoffs, the prospects are not going to be as fluent as some other teams. And again, to rely on Sidney Crosby and Malkin for so long, it has worked up to this point. They've had some excellent players come through and, of course, win Stanley Cups in the past. But right now, they're heavily relying on Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin, and it showed in that series versus the Islanders. And, of course, when they don't get it done, the team usually does not get it done. Now, the Pittsburgh Penguins have accomplished a lot. That's a little bit of an understatement. Again, getting 3 cups in that pretty much 8-year span. They were simply fantastic in that era with Sidney Crosby. And of course, the core there got the job done. They won the cups. But the core that ended up winning those Stanley Cups is now starting to fade when it comes to age, when it comes to skill. And the time for the Pittsburgh Penguins is now. But they kind of blew it, didn't they? And that's just the thing. When it comes to the oldness of the core for the Pittsburgh Penguins, that is the most worrying thing for me. Now, Sidney Crosby is 31, and while he is getting up there in age, he hasn't really slowed down as of late. In the regular season, he was simply sensational, so I wouldn't quite worry about him. Evgeny Malkin is 3 months away from being 33. That also is pretty crazy. Chris Letang is 31 right now. Phil Kessel is 31. Patrick Hornquist is 32. You get it. The core right now for Pittsburgh is starting to age and is starting to get older, and we did see that versus the New York Islanders. Now that's just the thing. Yes, they have that core right now. They do have that age. Sidney Crosby is still an excellent player, age 31. Evgeny Malkin is still an excellent player. Chris Letang is still a great player. Phil Kessel is still a great player. But the big question when it comes to those guys in that core that is starting to get older is when do they eventually drop off? It always happens with every single hockey player when they start to get older. When will the eventual drop off happen? Now when it comes to the expiration date of Sidney Crosby, I think he is definitely up there. It'll take a while for him to eventually slow down, but I think we will see a little bit of decline for him next year as well. Evgeny Malkin I'm not really sure about since he does have an injury history that could be troubling. With Chris Letang, that also is the same thing. Phil Kessel could age quite nicely. Again, his speed might not be up there compared to years past, but he still might be good. But when it comes to the Pittsburgh Penguins overall, they are starting to get older. They are starting to get slower, which is pushing them further back from the teams like they were, the speed teams back in 2016 and 2017 that ended up winning the Stanley Cups for them. Now, especially over the last couple of years, the Pittsburgh Penguins have done everything in their power to prolong the playoff success that they've had recently, to prolong the inevitable, which is right now the eventual collapse of the Pittsburgh Penguins. It'll happen at some point, whether it's the year, next year, the year after that, it'll happen at some point. And the Pittsburgh Penguins train for guys like Ryan Reeves, Erica Branson, signing guys like Jack Johnson. It's obvious that they want to bring skilled players and guys that'll help the core for right now, but obviously right now, they're doing the exact opposite. But the Pittsburgh Penguins window is definitely closing. It might have already closed at this point, but when it comes to the window of winning a Stanley Cup, I think that is far and away over. But when it comes to a window of being competitive in the playoffs, that could still work. Maybe you give 1 or 2 years ahead of time, and maybe you could still do it. But after that point, when Crosby is 33, when Malkin is 34, when Letang is 33, when the core is even older, that's what you don't want to have, is the team still competing for the playoffs and just not having it time and time again. And for the Pittsburgh Penguins, if they don't realize what they are, which right now is not a Stanley Cup caliber team, that's the quicker they will realize to change that and, of course, have a better future, which right now, their future is just a thumbs down. For the Pittsburgh Penguins right now, it is pretty obvious what they need to do. They need to retool. Maybe sacrifice a couple of years in the potential playoffs that they would have to maybe sacrifice a little bit of that right now and go for the future. You don't have to sacrifice guys like Crosby or Malkin. You don't have to trade those guys, but make sure you rebuild for a couple of years, tank, and then come up and be amazing. When it comes to the Pittsburgh Penguins right now, they look to be on this mediocre streak of playoff runs. They're looking to trade for guys like Jack Johnson, Ryan Reeves, and that is not going to work for them for their future or for their present. By all means, if they want to continue to make the playoffs and do nothing in the playoffs, they can for sure keep doing that. But if they do retool, they could have another big shot at a Stanley Cup, still with Crosby and Malkin on the team. And it's obvious that Pittsburgh still wants to win another cup or another couple of cups with Crosby and Malkin, but doing it this way, being mediocre, getting swept in the first round, is obviously not the way to do it. If you retool though, if you get a fantastic player in 2020 like Alexis Lafreniere or something, that would make the Pittsburgh Penguins' whole scheme, whole franchise change in an instant. And if the Pittsburgh Penguins want to go that route, which I think is the smart route, I think it would work. Crosby would still be maybe 33 and 34 by the time that starts to come up and those young players start to come up and play well, but at that point, Crosby would still have a lot left in him, and Malkin, if he is healthy, would still have a lot left in him. And I feel like with the Pittsburgh Penguins, to continue the mediocrity, at some point, the collapse is going to come, and at that point, it is not going to be pretty. But if they do retool and do rebuild just a little bit, it will be better, and they'll have some young players be mentored by Crosby and Malkin, which would seriously help. Now, the main problem with this whole retool idea is Jim Rutherford, the GM of the Pittsburgh Penguins. If there's anybody that won't do this idea, it is Jim Rutherford right now. Now, currently the Penguins have a 13-year playoff streak, and I feel like for Jim Rutherford, that is his main priority, to keep that going, to make the playoffs and once again lose in the first round, because that's what's going to happen if the Pittsburgh Penguins don't retool, or at least do something to fall back a little bit and come back up. Now, it was a little bit different with the 2016-2017 team, who, yes, were still in that playoff streak, technically, but they had guys who were developed coming through, and then younger guys, or younger-ish Sidney Crosby, young-ish Evgeny Malkin, and it's different now. I don't feel like Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin can carry a whole team. Back then, they had some depth players that were young, who were playing well. Guys like Connor Sheary, you could just put on Sidney Crosby's wing, and they would play fantastic. But it's different now for the Pittsburgh Penguins. It is a different place now that those guys are older, and they can't get it done as good as they used to. And with the Pittsburgh Penguins, I think in order to go back to that former glory that they got back in 2016-2017 as well, I feel like right now, they need to rebuild. They need to get that retool going, sacrifice a couple years, and come back right up. And I feel like if I do that, if they actually do that with Crosby and Malkin, it could definitely work. But I feel like right now, the playoffs is just too much of a priority for that to actually happen. And Jim Rutherford is also just a weird GM. There's some moves that he'll make, like the Phil Kessel trade, that are just like absolutely bonkers, and you'll think he's one of the best GMs in the NHL. But then he'll sign Jack Johnson, and then trade for Erica Branson months later, and then you think he's one of the worst GMs in NHL history. It'd be like that sometimes for Jim Rutherford, and I just don't really get him sometimes, because even after the season, when it was obvious that those two guys are the freaking problem in Pittsburgh, he's still going out and defending him. And I know you want to defend your players and all that, but give the freaking blame where it is due. Jim Rutherford signing or getting both of those guys, acquiring both of those guys, is one of the worst moves that he's ever made as a GM, one of the worst moves made as NHL general manager in history, and those two guys on that team will be one of the reasons why they might miss the playoffs next season. And I'm dead serious. Now, I'm going to go on a little bit of a hot take right now, so prepare yourselves. When it comes to Jack Johnson and Eric Graviteh, if both players are still on the roster for the Pittsburgh Penguins next season, they will miss the playoffs. That is my hot take, but I don't think it's too much of a hot take right now. We really didn't see Eric Graviteh have a full season with the Pittsburgh Penguins. We saw Jack Johnson with a full season with the Pittsburgh Penguins, and it was not good whatsoever. But having both of those guys on the defense is so incredibly bad, and there was points where they were the pair. There was points where they were paired together, Jack Johnson and Eric Graviteh. I'm not sure how worse that really gets, but man, for the Pittsburgh Penguins, if they keep that, good luck. And for Jim Rutherford to still go out and defend Jack Johnson, Eric Graviteh, and to still have him on the team right now is an absolute disaster, an absolute disgrace. And that's what's most concerning to me, is that Jim Rutherford still thinks those two guys are good to have on the team. And I don't care what character Eric Graviteh brings. I don't care what grit Eric Graviteh brings. He is an absolutely trash player. One of the worst defensemen in the entire NHL. And to have him on the Pittsburgh Penguins is going to do the Pittsburgh Penguins nothing good for the now, the present, or the future. But I'm sorry, if the Pittsburgh Penguins want to keep acquiring guys like Ryan Reeves, Eric Graviteh, Jack Johnson, by all means, be my guest. But if you want to have success in the playoffs, even in the regular season as well, bringing in these grit guys, bringing in these character guys is going to do the exact opposite of what you eventually want to accomplish. When it comes to the grit guys, when it comes to the character guys, they're nice to have, but not to sacrifice the skill and the speed that Pittsburgh had back in 2016 and 2017. It just doesn't make any sense to me that a GM can go so quickly from speed and skill, and obviously that being the future, to getting guys like Eric Graviteh and Jack Johnson. Again, that is super worrying for a team that needs more skill right now, especially in the depth-wise, defensively. They need that, and also to stop some pucks sometimes. I'm looking at you, Matt Murray. But if the Pittsburgh Penguins decide to not go that retool route and continue to try and make the playoffs year after year, the dynasty, I think, is over for them. They might make the round 2 or something a couple of times, but to win a Stanley Cup, you need to have those great players, and you need to have some sort of depth. And as those great players like Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin start to get older, it'll become more and more impossible. And for the Pittsburgh Penguins to continue to make the playoffs, it'll do them no good in the regular season and even in the playoffs. For them to get another cup, to get another couple of cups with this core right now, again, the retool is the route right now, but if they don't, I think the dynasty is over. Now, of course, again, they still, over the next few years, will likely make the playoffs, maybe do some damage here and there, but I just don't see it ultimately coming together to form another cup run and another Stanley Cup win. And for the Pittsburgh Penguins, that is obviously what they want right now. The retool, again, is what I think they should go towards, and even if they don't, again, they likely will make the playoffs with Crosby and Malkin both getting older. It's only a matter of time before that dynasty is a thing of the past. But of course, with this video, I want to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments down below. So let me know, what do you think about the Pittsburgh Penguins? What do you think about their terrible series versus the New York Islanders? Do you think their dynasty is over, or do you think they can still win a Stanley Cup in the next few years? But if you guys want some more Grav videos just like this one, you can click on this card right here to watch my video about the Tampa Bay Lightning and if they should blow their entire core up. But that'll be it for today, guys. If you guys did enjoy, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Again, comment down below your thoughts on the Pittsburgh Penguins and if their dynasty is really over. And I'll see you guys next video or stream. Goodbye.